Morning, everybody. I'm Pastor Joel Mack. I'm excited to be here. I have served in this community for 28 years as the senior pastor of Mount Carmel Baptist Church in Winchester. I have the privilege of being able to say I've been around when Coach Chris got started. And so we are excited that we're part of the unique family. On my athletic side, I was a three-star athlete in Baltimore City College and Baltimore City in track, basketball, and football. Had the privilege of getting the Division I football scholarship, so I was a football guy. And so we're excited to be here. So that journey led us to being able to share that with Joshua and Matt, with my son. We're excited. Wound up playing big hoops and playing travel basketball. Going to St. Mary High School, and eventually the Division I basketball scholarship to Stonehill College in Boston, where he played there and graduated. So we're excited to be here and share our journey.
Thank you, Pastor Matt. Mr. Beard.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Beard. Very grateful to be able to serve this community. Very grateful to have D1 scholarship athlete. Went through times and seasons and things like that, and I'll share a little bit of my perspective on that. We're just grateful to be here today and just give you a little bit of a point of view of what I have to say.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Gonzalez.
Good morning. My name is Kamara Mintz. I'm a native of Washington, D.C. I have two young sons. I call them young men, almost young. I have two young sons named Judah, who was fortunate enough to play Division I college basketball for Baptist Church for 2 years. I have an 18-year-old who also plays. He's a senior at St. James Performance Academy in Springfield. So I've known Chris. I don't know, maybe years or so. I played in high school, played in college. That's how Chris and I wound up meeting. I know he does incredible work. So I am proud of our family here. I look forward to sharing my perspective.
Thank you. First, what I'd like to kind of ask the panel, just a really quick question. What would probably, and Pastor Mack will start with you, what were probably some of the key moments in your family's journey that kind of, when you had to start looking at your son's development, what were some of the key moments for your family that you all had to kind of wrap your heads around?
Being a pastor, one of the key things that I had to think about was travel basketball, travel, because most of the tournaments take place on the weekend, and we knew we would have to be done on the weekend, and so we had to make some decisions. It was interesting because I was a guy who wanted to be at the game, wanted to cheer and yell at the game, and so fortunately, some of those Sunday sermons was real quick, and I was out there. Jesus went, but I'm out. God bless you. So I'm trying to get to the game with Joshua. So we had to make those decisions, and then the blessing was my staff, my team said, "Listen, you only get a chance to be a dad at one time, and so we know what to do. So go be a dad with your child, with your son, with your daughters." And so that was the big thing.
Key moments of the journey and development has been great. We didn't know the scope of what we would be going to and doing as far as having an athlete and family that would just take us places that we have never been before. But we're grateful for that. And the key moments is watching the development parent him and watched him get through this and go through this as an athlete. It's just been a great journey and one I would trade it for the world.
I can think of a couple of key moments. So my oldest started playing basketball when he was 3, right? His first word was ball, like always, just loved the game. The first key moment that comes to mind is when we realized that he really, really loved it, and that in order for him to really pursue it seriously, we were going to have to make some changes about how we live our lives. And when I say that, I'm talking about all that extra training and time and all that. Because obviously you can't get to a place where you are fortunate enough to get a Division I scholarship or any scholarship if all you do is go routine practice, right? So for us, that first key moment was recognizing like, all right, this is going to take a whole lot of extra time, not just for him, but for us, right? Like he's the one that's doing the workouts, but we want to pay for it, and we want to take it. We talk about 5 a.m. workouts and 6 p.m. workouts after school and all that kind of thing. So that was a real key moment. But then also, fast forward, when it was time to make a decision about where he should go to high school, that was a real key moment for us. Obviously, there are lots of different schools that you can go to. You got private schools, you got public schools, you got private schools that are out of town. And so trying to navigate that process, it started in middle school to figure out what was going to be the best situation for him was a key moment for us.
Now, I'm going to piggyback a little bit, and gentlemen, I'd like for you guys to kind of answer this. It's twofold. Every child is different in every household. So, when or what was the breakthrough for your child in terms of seeing that, okay, this is really serious? What was the breakthrough? Because of the nature of what you all already talked about a little bit in terms of the commitment of the family, being able to put forth the effort. But when you're looking at your child, you're saying, okay, that's a breakthrough. It was a breakthrough moment. What was that breakthrough like? And then kind of give us a story behind that breakthrough. In other words, there was a moment there that happened. What was the story behind it? And then how did the light bulb go off for them? That's right.
I think there were several breakthrough moments for us. Most folks don't realize our basketball journey didn't start with Joshua. It started with his older sister, Jasmine. And many of you heard of Courtney Green, but Jasmine was practicing the way before Courtney Green was giving them the business. We didn't know Joshua would like basketball, but because of Jasmine's illness, because of her, she couldn't practice, we found and discovered that Joshua really loved the game. And we knew that we had to get him to things. So the after-school program that Coach Chris when he began to take it seriously and do basketball and do different things without being asked. That extra, dribbling outside and making sure he worked on his stuff so he could practice, that he was there. And so, breaking through the things that he loved the game and wanted to improve in the game. I think that was a major breakthrough. And for us, understanding that he'd been in private school all his life, so academically wasn't a challenge. And so we made the decision to change schools, not for the academics, but so they had an opportunity to play basketball. And so, that was it. So having all of that experience with his friends, Joshua was at a point where he was okay making the decision to leave this entire school system to pursue that opportunity.
we felt that the coaches that he had was really important, not just the coaching, but their character. The coaches were speaking, spending time with their character. So at that time, we made the decision to do that. And I was just proud of him because he got all of his friends that was here as a challenge for him. And so that was a breakthrough for us. Him loving the game, him making sacrifices, and doing the different things. So I think being able to, we moved out of state to give him an opportunity because we saw some roadblocks and some things. And so I think that was a great sacrifice for all of us. Really proud of my son for that opportunity to leave his friends that he'd been with all the whole time, to know that he had an opportunity to pursue his dreams. Thank you.
Just being grateful for the sacrifice that we had to go through, and just to see her have a heart for it. And it was her brother who, I believe, sparked the fire in her. He was doing athletics at Andy, and Taylor would be watching, and she would be behind him. She was always athletic. As a child, it was just amazing to watch her on the trampoline doing the things she was doing backwards flips and stuff like that. And I knew it was something special. Did we know what it was going to evolve into? Absolutely not. But she had every opportunity to pursue whatever she wanted to pursue. We didn't press her on anything. We didn't try to shake and mold the best high jumper out there or anything like that. But we just showed her the unconditional love that you can do all things through Christ and strengthen her. And we watched that happen in her life and in her brother's life. And even when her brother was challenged and wrongfully done wrong, he didn't get the attitude. I mean, he quit playing basketball, but he didn't get the attitude of I'm done. He got the attitude, I'm just going to keep on going. And it inspired her. I really believe it inspired her to keep going no matter what. So the sacrifice is that what a blessing it is to watch your child go through trials, tribulations, and situations and still stay committed to what they were doing. Thank you.
I can think of a couple of moments that I think were breakthroughs for him and for my wife and I. I think it was either fourth or fifth grade. At this point, he was always one of the taller players on his team. And you know, when you are like in grade school, the tall kids usually stuck in the basket. That's the way it's been for a long time. So he had a bunch of little guys on his team, so he was stuck underneath the basket. But he could dribble, right? And so I remember at that time, he just refused to dribble because his coach would always tell him to remember to little dudes and go to the court. And I would be driving me crazy because I knew he could dribble. I knew he needed to dribble, right? Because he wasn't going to be 6'7", 6 foot, even. But I remember this one particular game, he got a rebound. His little guard came running over, going out there, the ball. And he just looked him off. And he started dribbling up the court. And he wasn't dribbling like he normally would dribble. He had a little bounce, like a little different kind of confidence there. Just right there to the dribble. And I swear, in that moment, I looked like, he found himself a little bit. And from then, he stopped playing like a big. So that honestly was a breakthrough moment for him. Because up to that point, he was playing. He loved the game. I loved that. He did love the game. But he was playing for fun. I wasn't thinking about going to high school, I was thinking about college. We were just letting them play the game they like to play. So moving forward, 7th grade was when I recognized that, all right, he's going to be able to play at a high level in high school. Because we went through that summer, he was playing with Team Tech, and he just crushed us this summer. He just gave everybody away. They traveled all over the place. They were in Vegas, in Florida, all over the place. And so that summer, we're like, okay, all right, he's going to be able to, he's going to be able to play. And then the last one was after his ninth grade year. We had already made a decision about where he was going to high school and all that, so we played his ninth grade year. And I still wasn't entirely sure what his basketball future was going to look like. He showed so much that summer that I was like, okay, I'm not going to play for college. Thank goodness. That was the moment I realized that I wasn't going to play for college. And then later on, it made more sense for us to start playing for the rest of the basketball future. Those are the key breakthrough moments that I remember.
Thank you. So each and every one of you all have kind of talked a little bit about what the breakthrough was and from a family perspective, a little bit of the commitment that you all needed to do. But I'm curious, how did you all balance the commitment level as well as the academic commitment level, as well as also allowing your children to just be kids? How do you balance that dynamic? How'd you balance that, Pastor?
It was a challenge. I think the bigger thing for us, and I guess I keep going back to Coach Chris, it was an after-school program that dealt with academics first. So basketball was second, and it was able to balance. And so Josh began to learn the whole process that this academics is first, because if you don't deal with this academics, you don't get to the basketball. And so that was instilled in him at an early age. And so that was instilled in him at an early age, and we were discovering his process. We learned that Josh was very detailed. He was a thinker. Sometimes that cost him basketball because he's trying to think it all out as opposed to react. And so we kind of developed that process. And one of the things that we discovered along the way is that he has an excellent memory. And so he relied on his memory a lot as opposed to, digesting the information. Give an example, it kind of made me mad. We were going through this learning these poems, this poem called Gift, that I had to learn. So I got mad at him, and I'm mad at him and said, okay, all right, go ahead and learn this poem. And so he comes back 3 minutes later, and I said, man, can I take you to learn this poem? And he says, yeah, I learned the poem. And he says the poem from baby, quickly kind of back and then looks at me and smiles. And so that was just one of the indications that he had some opportunities, so we had to keep him balanced with those things. And we actually got a tutor. We got a math tutor. Some of you may remember Evan Hunter, late Evan Hunter was the math professor at Royal Range, and began to tutor. And he would tutor Josh in math. Utilizing just going to the shop, would go to Walmart, go to the store and talk about buying stuff. And while they were walking, he was teaching them math principles. And so Josh learned early on with a compound of the math principles, and then he would deal with all of that that helped him academically and challenging. And so the other piece was he was so competitive, so he got competitive in the classroom as well as competitive on the court. Josh wanted to be dangerous. He wanted to be, at the top of his class. He wanted to be that. And then he surrounded himself with other people who would not only help him, but challenge him. And so, that's one of the ways that we did that. That principle, understanding the balance, and applying that to getting help along the academic way.
It was definitely a key for Taylor to be able to see that because one thing I really want to reiterate on is if you don't have the grades, you can have the best talent in the world. And you'll be sitting on the sideline talking about you're better than that person that's out there on raised, I would be sitting on the sideline talking about I wish. So I watched her go through that sacrifice, and she kept her grades, and she didn't let others that was around her or in the same school spirit or with her dictate her happiness and her joy. She had some tough times with that, but she pressed through that and realized that it wasn't their opinion. It was God's opinion that kept her and gave her the platform that she has. But if any time that she would have got to that place of letting people do that, my wife Kelvin and I would have many conversations with her, but she would worry about the people and the situations, and it got to a point where that's not even an issue anymore. She realized that she had a gift and a talent, and that was a breakthrough moment of her staying focused and committed. We watched that process of her changing into that and being that person that the world didn't dictate her happiness. Thank you.
I can't speak for everybody, but I can say that finding that balance for both my sons wasn't really that much of a challenge to me personally. I told you earlier, I played in college. I was lucky enough to earn a Division I scholarship. I played 4 years. But my freshman year of college, I had 5 classes. I started the semester with 15 hours, and I dropped 1. So I had 12, and I failed 2. So I earned 6 credits that first semester in college. And if you know about the eligibility rules, you know, you got to earn a certain number of credits per year. So it's 24, back then it was 24. For the year, you only earn 6 and 30 something. So the point is that I was able to use my own personal experience to make it clear to them just how important taking care of their schoolwork was, because the consequence that I had to suffer for failing those 2 classes my first semester was that going into my sophomore year, I was ineligible until December. So I missed the entire first semester of my sophomore season, all because I didn't take my classwork. And so I told them that story more than once, probably more times than they cared to hear. But it was important for them to understand, so they did, right? So the academics was never really an issue, so there was no challenge really balancing that. The other part of your question was about balancing their pursuit of the dream with just being a kid. I may have a different philosophy about that balance. When they told me, especially my oldest, when he told me what his goals were, what his dreams were, what he wanted to do in the game, we had a conversation about what that was going to require. And part of that, a large portion of that, was about the sacrifice. I know we're talking a lot about sacrifice, but that's what it is, right? So we always talk about how his journey, his path was not going to be the same as some of his other friends' journeys and paths, right? But he was fortunate that his closest friends had similar dreams, right? So his 2 best friends in the world are still playing Division I college basketball right now, and they all had the same dream, which meant that they all understood what it was going to take for them to get there, and so they worked together, right? They worked out together, they conditioned together. This is from middle school all the way to high school. Even to this day, they still work out with science times together. And so trying to figure out the balance between pushing them and helping them to pursue their athletic dreams and allowing them to just still be a kid, that really wasn't that much of a challenge either, because once he told me what he wanted to do, anytime he woke up and didn't really feel like, going to this workout, all I had to do was remind him of what he told me, right? And if he had told me, like, Papa, I just want to have fun. I just want to, go to practice, play my games, and have fun. That's fine. That's what we would have done. And I would not have been with him before to get him 5 workouts. I wasn't spending to travel basketball and all that. And that would have been perfectly fine. Once he said he wanted to do X, Y, and Z in the game, we all understood that there was going to be requirements and going to be sacrifices that he had to make that we also had to make. So finding that balance wasn't really that much of a challenge. absence. I just always reminded him what his goal was, and every time there was any hesitation, he would snap back for it.
Thank you. All right, this next question. This next question is going to be a little bit more on the testy side, Jim. Okay, just trust me. Trust me. Okay, so we just talked about balance in terms of how you will balance with your child, in terms of social, in terms of the commitment to the game, academics. Now tell me, how were you able to now balance teachers, coaches, and then inside the home in terms of that triangle where you know that your respective child is into this particular sport, basketball, they want to play, they want to be successful. However, now you've got to navigate what that relationship is when it comes home with the coach. How do you navigate that same relationship with the teacher? How you actually navigate as fathers with your respective wives, right? All those three, that whole dynamic is very important because it's all about the child. How are you all able to navigate that?
You set it up, coach. You set it up. Well, for us, I think it's important. It was a very important lesson for me, for us at a period of time, because one of the things that, Josh, my son is a very laid back person, and I'm not. And so he would say when I walk into the gym, I'm gonna go, and then just take him a while to get going. But I think one of the things that was really important for me is, as a parent, I wanted persons around me who would be beyond basketball, but talk about helping make him be a better person. So that was important. So the coach's character, those things were important. So I was always involved in school. I was always involved in those things. I was always involved in that aspect. And I think one of the things that me being on go all the time, balancing that, I had to take a couple of hard lessons. And one of those was that by Josh being laid back and I'm always on go, one of the coaches, and that fact, it was a recruiter said to us, because I'm in the stands, I'm yelling, shoot, and he said, listen, your son, the reality of it is, your son is not 6'7", he's not good. So we have 1,000 players like him, and so we cut people, cut families based on the parents being helicopter parents, like you being. It was a hard lesson, but the reality was, as the coach said, the Division I coach for Houston, he said he can't listen to both of us. He's got to be able to listen to the people who know. But if he's trying to please you and stand and me here, that's not going to work. And so that was a hard lesson for us to understand. And then early on, we relegated certain things, and it was. I was always on the go. I was always thinking, if he had a bad shooting night or whatever, we in the gym. We'll go to the gym, and I would never turn it off. It was always turned on, and it was destroying our relationship. It was crushing our relationship. So I could tell how he was, cringing and all kind of different things. And so I learned that the reason why is I was trying to compensate for poor coaching because I felt like he wasn't getting the things on the court that was necessary. So I'm trying to push him into being that kind of player. Just tearing up our relationship. And one of the things that I was not willing to sacrifice the relationship with my son for this moment. And so once I changed that and got into a coach that trusted me, So I learned some things that I just had to turn it on. And so we just talked about what the relationship we had. So I would ask him, or say just one thing after the play. You know, no matter whether it was a bad game, good game, good thing, I would just say. And our already says that, you know, I love watching you play. I'm proud. That was it. If he wanted to talk about it, we talked about it. You don't want to do it, we do it. But I learned just to calm that thing down and balance that. And that made the home better. That made the ride better. That made all of the things much better once we learned to balance those things and share those things. And he had to develop into his own person, own player. And so he wasn't going to be mean like me or aggressive like me, but until he got mad, we learned the coaches that we had, they learned how to get the best out of him. You know, that kind of thing. I think that was the most important. They would say, hey, you want to do this? But he became one of the past first point guard in the Steph Curry era. So, you know, that was definitely difficult. I remember he told Kobe one time, Kobe was recruiting him at Reddit, and Kobe was saying, you should have took the shot, kind of thing. Now, he went through all of that, but I said, we won by 200. You know, I got scores, I got passes, I had 10 assists and 4 points, and we won. So we allowed him to be himself, develop himself, and to mesh with that. So that made home better, that made the ride better, and everything. So
Thanks for the reminder of this, we appreciate it.
in case y'all didn't know, that was Chris Stevens saying, shut up.
I am truly grateful we got the chance to be stewards over Taylor and her journey in athletics. It's amazing how it started. I started at Daniel Morgan Middle School, and she just had that desire to do and compete. And so the coach there was not really seasoned as a coach, so she did her thing, and that opened the door for her to go to the next level. So when she got to Hanley High School, the coach there was just tailor-made for her. And like I said, please hear me, I'm not trying to make it like all rainbows, but the bottom line is she's been very blessed, and we've been very blessed, and we didn't have to micromanage the coach, because the coach realized the potential that he has been given, and for him to develop that out of her and never once have to be on her case, because she was driven just to compete and have fun and enjoy the sport that she was doing. And I'm so grateful for that. So at Coach at Hammond, we never had to micromanage him. And her real love was basketball. She had scholarships for basketball, they never told her about. And she still thinks she got gang out of school. And her goal with it, and that she was trying to jam, she wants to jam the basketball. She wants to be able to dunk the basketball. She's doing tennis balls, but she did probably. Oh, okay. So, but again, all through her journey in sports, it was never a challenge from the coach, because the gift that the coach knew that they were getting in her demeanor and the way she carried herself in the sport, it was never really a challenge. And then when she got to Cincinnati, there was a little bit of turbulence, but the biggest thing is that she always held her ground. She always held that place of, I don't have to be like you to be able to be accepted. Because a lot of peer pressure in Cincinnati was trying to take her out. And she realized it was nothing but the enemy trying to take her out. And she stood true to what she was called to do and the gift and the platform she's been given. So now here it is, all the coach had to do it to his part. He didn't have to challenge her, he didn't have to keep growling over her. He got to no, he seen the gift that he was given. And he nurtured that gift. And we got to get the benefits of watching her go through that step by step by step. And even when the turbulence came, she didn't worry and focus on the turbulence that much. So there's been times she's been down in spirit, but the bottom line, she knew where her heart was. And it's just amazing to watch her just retool and rethink and redo things instead of
So, balancing, the relationship with coaches and teachers, that's also something that I think is pretty simple. I've been in and around this game for a long time. I started playing basketball when I was 10, right? So 14. So I've been in and around this game at every level for 30 years. So I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of coaches, I've seen a lot of players, trainers, all that. What I've learned, and something that I know for a fact, is that parents need to stay in their lanes. Whether you are a former player or not, maybe even more so if you're not, but parents certainly need to stay in their lanes, because I've seen how much more difficult it becomes when parents don't stay in their lane. And I don't mean, not being loud at games or, cheering or talking trash. I don't mean that. I mean that. I am that. But the parent that is always on the phone with the coach after a game and they don't like the playing time their kid got, or they don't like the shots that their kid got, or the parent that was in practice and thinks the drills aren't good enough, or that kind of parent. That's the one that's not staying in the lane. That's the one that makes it difficult for the player in ways that I don't think the parents understand. Even when, and I know this from personal experience, but again, I had a pops who was just, he was like nuts at games. And it makes it difficult for your athlete to really respect what is coming from the coaching staff. And again, it doesn't matter if the kid has the best coach in the world or a coach that's just volunteering, their time and doesn't really know that much about the game. The principle is bigger than what they're actually being taught. And this is something that I've learned to be absolutely true, because if your player, your athlete, hears you trying to micromanage or talk crazy about what coach is doing, what coach is saying, how they ran practice, how they call this during the game, they should be doing that, without them really realizing it, it starts making the player doubt the coach. And that's not good, because it can snowball into a place where now the kid is hard to coach. And I can tell you for a fact, nobody wants to play that is hard to coach. I don't care what level we talk about, what sport. Nobody wants a kid who's not coaching. And so when parents don't stay in their lane, you can unintentionally make your kid hard to coach. And even if you play the game, like again, I played the game, so they had coaches that didn't, right? I was never going to go challenge the coach. If I see something that looks, even if it looks crazy, like really stupid, I'm not going to go to my kid and say, nah, ignore coach, don't do what he said, pay him no mind. No, that's your coach. The coach is telling you to do X, Y, and Z. Do X, Y, and Z. That's what it is. And later on, we'll have a different conversation about what you saw, Mike Washington, all that kind of stuff. But the easiest way to make sure that you balance that is for parents to just stay in their lane. Just do what it is that you are supposed to do, no matter the coach do their job. Just when you don't, I promise you, it makes everything more possible.
Thank you. All right, this next question. Throughout the journey, you've gone through your respective sons and daughters, circumstances, situations. What is one thing that you probably wish someone would have told you in the beginning that you probably could have taken that wisdom to make the journey a little bit more enjoyable? If that makes sense. We're asking.
I think one of the things early on that I wish someone had told me is that the coaches the coaches that will be over your son, that relationship, that understanding of the game matters. I think that's extremely important as far as that character and understanding, because some of those decisions that we make have ripple effects. So I wish I had done that and taken that into account as we made that journey. We made the mistake of chasing the circuit, trying to get on the circuit, trying to do those things because we thought that was the way to go to get exposure. When in reality, some of the situations down towards the city just wasn't ideal for us. So I wish someone had told me that's not as important as the development of the young man, young person, as well as the skills, but the development as a person. So that's one of the major things that I would share.
Myself, I don't have that really major point. I wish somebody would have told me this because we just watched the gift unfold and work itself out, and we've been blessed by that. One thing I'm glad I didn't do is press her or press the coaches or anything like that. Watch the gift unfold. It's nothing else I can ask for. You know, it's been really good. So I can't really put a lot on that.
If I had to say what I wish someone would have told me, I think what I would say is that I wish someone would have told me about how fast it goes. Told her my oldest started playing when he was 3. He's 22 now, and it seems like it really was just a really short time ago. And, as Pastor said earlier, we were talking about, all the traveling and games, tournaments, every weekend you're somewhere else, and 4 or 5 practices a week. So in the moment, it seems like a lot. It seems like it's literally non-stop. It actually is non-stop. It's really no break, but we enjoyed it, loved it, and have enjoyed every minute of it with both of them. But I think that there were times where we could have sat back and just really appreciated the process a little more instead of being so focused on his development and with the next step was, what the best choice, the next move is. And I know it's not like a basketball thing, but somebody told me at the beginning of their journeys that it was really going to go by fast. I feel like we would have taken more time at different moments in the process and just really appreciate it and have fun. Don't get me wrong, we had a ton of fun. I got a million memories and videos with pictures and all that stuff. But still, we were really focused on making sure that we were trying to set them up in the best ways. And sometimes that can get you off track. So, just being appreciative of the moment is something that I think I probably remember.
All right. We are at the stage in our program where you all in the audience have the opportunity to kind of ask the panel a few questions. So if you have a question, please feel free to raise your hand. All right, I figured that was what happened. So I have a question. We all talked a lot about coaching a little bit in terms of that relationship, in terms of navigating that. And I can remember, of course, you always have some parents that are concerned about their child and their development, especially at the collegiate level. And I can remember one of the things that kind of never really came up, but when you're sending your child to college, you do know that basically that coach's job is in your your child's hand somewhere. There's a piece of that. So when your child's coached hard, or they are demanded from, how did you all handle that call coming back home, right? Because the call is coming back home. Or it could be just the dynamics within the team, right? Like something within the team is happening. How did you all handle that?
I think for me, one of the things that happened with Josh wanted to go away. He wanted to go to Stonehill College in Boston, up in Boston, Mass, because he said, you know, it fit him, but it also was far enough away where Dad wouldn't do so many drop-ins. He was wrong. I still dropped in. I was the only parent at midnight mass. So I think one of the things was for us, the prior to all of that, we learned because of how Josh processed himself. He wanted to be at a place. That really wanted him. That was a great fit for him. So he had opportunities, at High Point and other places, but those didn't seem to be the fit. And when they came back and made the decision, they wanted all that he would bring, but also what he would develop into. So they wanted to pass first point guard because they had 3 all-stars around. They didn't want that. So I think that was the important thing. So the phone call that I got was, the coach got, how can I get more, out of him? Because, he's passed for his point guard, but we also need him to be a threat. And so, one of my pieces was like, I let the coach run his lane and coach him. And I just thought, I thought he was just a little too soft. I just think that, he's trying to play politics or whatever, but Josh came through strong coaches and coaches who got him to some things. And I just thought that, at that point in time, I was like coaching. You come coach him. I said, and if he's responding to certain things, have that talk. And if not, sit his butt down. He's not doing it. This is sit him down. He's been through coaching and stuff like that. So that's how I handled it. I was just open with it. They worked it out. When Josh went through his ups and downs, he gets mad and try to knock us people. Where is that in the regular game? So I handled it that way. Just had the coach do his job and to coach them all.
Again, just very fortunate for the people that have been in her life, the coaches that have been in her life. It was never really a point to where they had to call me or to prod her. I was the one that was calling the coach all the time, and I had to really not do that. No, that's okay. I got this. All right, it's all right. And like I said, they realized that it was a gift that they were given, and so they never. It got to times where she was frustrated and the coach may have been a little bit frustrated, but this is how God works, and this is how the presence of knowing who you are and whose you are. She was able to minister to him and get him through some tough times that he was going through. And she stepped up to do that. And so I'm so grateful that we never had to have really tough conversations with that coach, because she stayed in her lane. She did more than what she was supposed to do. And so he had no reason to come at her wrong or thinking that she's underachieving. And so he's never had to really call us about anything. There's been some friends and situations and times that people wanted her to conform with what they were doing. And like I said, the coach was just really encouraging her just to keep on doing you, be the athlete that you came here to be. So it was just great situation to see that turnaround. As many times as I just wanted to call him, and it wasn't really him, it was her having to adjust to what she was doing and where she was at. But I wanted to call him and tell him, what's going on, what's this? And I thank God that I stayed out of the way, so I didn't really have to build this case with that.
been my experience, the players are always going to have some kind of conflict with the coach at some point, right? It's not always going to be something super serious, but it's a competitive environment, full of super competitive people, type of personalities, and so people are going to clash at times, right? Both of my boys have been coached their entire lives by tough, aggressive coaches. I've known from first and second grade all the way through, and I never had an issue with that. My mother came to a few of his practices when he was maybe in the second grade, and his coach at the time, who I think is one of the best coaches in the area, first time. Right. In the second grade, I guess they were 8, something like that. 10, 4, yeah, just like maybe 8 years old. Coaches in the younger spring, they curse me. My mother, it was one of those like clutch and pearls type moments. He was talking to kids that way. It's like, well, it's fine. Man. He's not cursing at them, cursing them out. You know, and he curses when he talks. He's loudly and excited. And so they've had those types of coaches their entire lives. So there's never an issue for me. So there were times where I would get a phone call from Drew, from my oldest, and tell me about what coach did or what coach said. But because he was used to that and understood that it wasn't personal, it wasn't that big of an issue, right? I've always taught two of them that coaches can be wild, they will say wild things, but as long as it's about basketball, then it is what it is, right? If we told you to do A and B, B, C, and D, then yeah, you might get first out and you might kill it. As long as it's about basketball, then that's fine, right? Now, if he's personal, he starts calling out to them, it's really wild. Ask for him to call Pops and I'll have a conversation. That happened in college one time. He played for a legendary coach who is a complete and utter fool. Great coach, Hall of Fame dude. But if you have not been in those practices in that program, you would know it's a fool. But I think him learning how to deal with it through grade school, through high school, through AAU, and even in college was a big part of his maturity. Right? Because now he's professional. He's playing in Turkey. He's got a coach who was serving, really hard nosed, really strict. Wants things done the way he wants things done. Doesn't want to hear anything else. And again, I'm just talking about yesterday. Some of his teammates haven't matured in that area yet, and so they are already looking like they're not going to make it the full season. Like they're back playing and still back home. But he was able to go through it and figure it out, and like I said, it's part of his maturity. So, I got those phone calls here and there, but it never turned into a situation where he just wasn't going to be able to play with his coach or do what he needed to do because he had learned and he had been maturing since he was little in that area. Coaches who they learn, they would say, wow, it's just part of it.
Thank you, Jim. Questions? Anybody? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I want to build on that a little bit more, if we can, just in the perspective. I listen to you talk about your fortune and your gifts, and that's awesome. And I believe the Lord works in mysterious ways. And I believe God laughs at our plans, but I also believe chance favors the prepared. And I don't think it's just a complete chance that when she got in front of the right coach, that she was coachable. So I want to talk about what happens in the home, but also to get into some of the things that y'all have talked about is, all right, we've got a bunch of middle school girls here that go to public schools, and so they're into the system, get into high school, and they're going to a bunch of different high schools, a lot of different coaches. How do we as parents know if we've got the right coach that's pushing them the way they need to be pushed, or if we need to look at a different fit? And I don't know that all of us have the ability to uproot and get into the right place, the right program. I think that's awesome. But how do situation where it's the development of the player, the coach is not the right fit, and we need to look at something for, talk about what happens in the home, make them coachable, and then how, as parents, we make that critical decision.
We got ladies here in the audience, I'll let you go first because you're still, you have to go.
What happened in the home is, Taylor had free reign. We never pressed her to the point of where you're an athlete first. Her identity was with the Lord that she serves. So once that identity was there and she was doing a sport that she chose and she loved, so we weren't to push her to make her this being fighting machine. You gotta do this, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. Her love for the game allowed her to be coachable, no matter what the situation the coach was in. Because again, there was a little bit of turbulence in Cincinnati with that coach going through some things. But the bottom line is her love for the game and the sport that she was doing, she stayed true to that. And she didn't let the ladies on the team form her or shape her because she's already had her shaped and molded and early on in life as far as coming up in the word. And so now here it is, she knows who she is. And so now her choices weren't the coaches to break her or people to break her. It was to stay focused on the task that what she was doing. Again, basketball was her first love, and that's what she wanted to do. But whatever you do, ladies, whatever you do, it's not about the people and it's not about your friends and you have to conform to them. You've been given a gift to have a talent that can take you around the world. So don't let nothing or nobody take that talent away from you. Be the best you can be in everything that you're doing. And you ain't got to worry about the coach because the coach is going to cater to you. This is my star athlete. I want to be good to her. I want to make sure she's got everything she needs. And even when some adversity comes, don't fall to the adversity. It's going to come. You're going to have naysayers. You're going to have people that wants to put you down. She has some teammates that wanted to put her down, and she helped them win the state championship. But because they threw her in there at the last moment and she performed and did what she needed to do, they didn't like her. She has some challenges with that. But again, when you make that person figure that what your goal is, you'll never achieve your goal. So ladies, stand strong and don't let nothing take you away from the goal and what your dreams is and you're trying to do. Please know who you are and know the gift that you've been given and cultivate that gift. Be the best you can be, not for nobody else, but knowing that you gave your best in everything that you're trying to do in the athletic world and sports. And know that. Don't let nobody else tell you anything different. Be the best. Well, I just want to give you one scenario. But we were at a game, and there's a certain team that has a certain quality. When you play this team, everybody got scared. And I'll just be real and not trying to go any problem. But anytime that Millbrook came to play our girls were starting to defeated before the game. So now here it is, it's not who the team is or what the name of the team or how good they are. Make sure you give your best in everything that you're doing. Regardless of that person, you have all these headlights, all these accolades, to do your best. Don't let it take away from what you're doing in the sport.
For us, I think it's important. We're developing. We want the best person. We want the best people, that we can have. At some point in time, this sports is going to end. It's going to rock. You have to live. And so I think for us, as a family, and as believers, we wanted to instill in them to be polite people, to be kind. To be biblical persons in those things, to be fair. And so, manners, we come from a place where you say yes ma'am and no ma'am, and be kind, and thank you, and all of those kind of things, and those principles. We just think that athletics just reinforces and help develop some things about life. And so for us, it was about developing that so that there could be respectful regardless of who that person was, but also be confident in who you are, who God made you, and who God created you. And so, for that. When it comes to making some decisions, and, we made a very powerful decision, I still try to stick the hand a little bit every now and then. I tell them that they should have had 3 state championships if they had Joshua, but that's a whole nother story. One of the things that helped us make some decisions was how they communicated with Josh as far as the development of them. And so, just for instance, he started Coach Chris, he started, when he was 3 years old, in the 3rd grade, but some of the basic development things he was doing, he gets to the point where just being a basketball player there, it's like, okay, don't do this anymore. Or they're sacrificing, what I felt, that's my word, they're sacrificing him for the cause of the team. In other words, and so when we saw that they were willing to do that and make some difference, we knew that wasn't fit. I think as far as protecting, one of the things we had a situation where he just kept getting clouded, blindsided with these hard picks and kind of different things. And from a team aspect and from a coach aspect, it didn't look like they were willing to protect him. Just basic basketball. The teammates got to know how to do that. And so, if you get clubbed and they get you, then you need to get that back. And so when we saw that this was consistent, he was willing to sacrifice, we know that was not the place for him and make a change. So that was just kind of different things. I think Max, talk about hard coaches and sharing some different things. It's okay to be coach hard in basketball when you start talking about basketball, but when you get into something personal and you get into the young man, the young person's character and how they behave, we're not having that. That's another side. We have a tendency in our community. I'll just put it this way: it's the haves and the have-nots. And some people here who have the perception of having or being a great donor to the program, that children can do no wrong and be no wrong and get all of the pub and accolades. When again, that's another example of sacrificing the other children. So when we saw those things, we knew that was an opportunity. And having the ability to make the change and the sacrifice.
So I'll start with the second part of your question first. You asked about what you should be thinking about when it's time to make a decision about which high school kids want to, or maybe which AU program. The first thing I would say is to do your research. Right? Research these coaches, the programs, in the same way you would if you were looking for a primary care physician or audit or something like that. Because you can figure out a lot by doing that research, doing that due diligence. You can go to practices, right? If it's a situation where the coaches express some interest in the child, go to practices, go to the games, see how the coach runs the practice, see how the coach coaches during games, see how he relates to his players. Pay attention to how his players or their players relate to them. Talk to parents of players who have come through the program. Figure out if your goals align with their goals, right? If you have an athlete who wants to play Division I college basketball, play college basketball at all, see if that coach has kids in school as he or she helped kids, previous kids, make it to that level. If not, it may not be, the place you want to be. If they have a track record of helping several kids get to that same place, then maybe that makes more sense. But you definitely got to do the research. Part of that research is also looking at who is on the team. When I say that, I mean who your player would be playing next to and maybe behind, right? Because we talk about going to high school, you got an 8th grade son or daughter coming to high school. You want to know if they have a freshman who plays the same position as your kid, right? Because if so, that may not be a place for your kid, right? It would make no sense to be right behind somebody that they're not going to get a chance to play ahead of. You also want to know what kind of cultural competition that coach fosters, right? Because some coaches are old school, they believe that juniors and seniors play the minutes, underclassmen wait their time, regardless of the talent, regardless of the merit, regardless of who's best. That's how some of them are. Some coaches are going to play the best players, and it doesn't matter. So you got to do your research when you're trying to figure out what the best situation is going to be for your child. I've done it with both of my sons in terms of figuring out which high schools to play for and which AV programs to play for. And you can't feel like there is a sense of duty or loyalty, right? Because if you are in a place that works and then it's not working, you got to be willing to reevaluate, reassess, and figure out if it needs to be made. As I said, you can change schools for a better opportunity. So you also got to be open to the idea that maybe this is the best place for you this year and the last 2 years. Maybe the next 2 years we need to be somewhere else because the goal is the goal, right? Any coach with their soul is always going to understand that if you need to do something different with your child that you believe is best for your child, then that's just what has to happen. And most coaches, the ones that are doing the job for the right reasons, are not going to have an issue with that. It's not like you're going to be kind of weird for now you're going to be beefing when you see in the gym or see them in the gym. It's not going to be like that unless they're not doing the job for the right reasons. Because everybody that's involved in youth sports, especially at high levels, they're all supposed to be focused on trying to help the kids get to attain their dreams, right? Which most times is athletics. First part of your question was about what you do in the home to make sure the kids are coachable. That's really an easy one. I think that's the touched on it a little bit. Being coachable is really about being decent and respectful. And so we had conversations with our boys about being coachable, but they were easy conversations because from the time they can walk and talk, we're teaching them to be respectful, follow instructions, and those types of things. So being coachable is really just a byproduct or a consequence of a child being taught to be respectful and decent anyway. It's just a different authority, right? And so the sports context is a little bit different than just regular life. But at the root, that's really all it is.
Thank you, John. Any other questions? Just a minute.
I just have a comment to make from a mother's side of things in terms of all of that, what happens in the home. So part of what happens as it for our daughter and our son, even though their journeys were different, but they were very much the same because they both had goals and dreams about where they saw themselves. And both of those goals and dreams, once our daughter decided, because up until middle school, I think she was in the 8th grade, when she was already at high jump level, jumping college level, it gave her, that was I think for our family, the breakthrough moment that, oh, had no college aspirations. She had no, like, you know, she thought she wanted to be a school teacher, but academically, she didn't think she would ever be able to go to college. So that changed the whole dynamic of not just her life, but us as a family, right? And once she got into high school and started winning state championships, and even like her freshman year, they weren't supposed to scout, but people were handing me cards. We're not, you know, but we just want you to know we're here, right? And then going back as a family with her and just kind of just, you know, praying together, talking it through about what is going to happen as she continues to advance in the sport. And as a family, it meant my husband is, you know, a pastor. So those Sunday mornings, he's got to be at church. So you know what? She's got training in New Jersey. We got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Pick up coach, drive to New Jersey, train with a professional, and drive back. This is in high school. So who's going to do that? That would be me. Because he needs to be at church. You know what I'm saying? That's him. It was even when she got into college, and then she had a major surgery. Okay, so who's going to go out there and take care of her? Okay, well, he is the one that provides the finances for our family. So guess what? It'll be me. And it wasn't just me and him and her making these decisions. It was our family. Like even my son, even, you know, because actually Landrum went out there the first week with me after her surgery. So it became a family thing. And I remember before she decided what school she was going to go to, because she had multiple choices. One of the first things that I heard from our coach at Henley, Coach Mike, was he was like, they never ask you when your child is being looked at being recruited. The coach, the recruiter will never ask what the stats are, how high they jump, how good are they on rebound. Because trust me, they would have done the homework, right? They're getting tapes and all this kind of stuff. They already know that. What they're going to ask, this is the number one question, are they coachable? That's first and foremost. Because if the athlete is not coachable, no matter what the stats look like, no matter how many points, no matter how many rebounds, no matter how high they jump, how fast they run, are they coachable? And so just like our panel said, being coachable, that really does start in the home.
Thank you. I think I'm going to piggyback with something from the question that was asked, based around not just is an athlete coaching. So, for those of you who don't know, I coach He's a recruiter of mine. And I saw him in high school, actually, first. When I saw him, I knew he could play. I just knew he could straight up play. But Chris did not go to a traditional school. He ended up going to a junior college. But me being a Division III over the door, I knew I had no shot at him. Telling me right now, I had no shot. Zero shot. He's a Division I player in my mind. When I watched him in high school, I'm sitting up there at Coldfield House for all the other coaches are looking at him. And I know he's a Division I player. I'm looking at him. Okay, he's got to do this. He ended up, for whatever reason, he ends up going to Southern Maryland Community College. Now, when he got to Southern Maryland, I'm following him, and I'm noticing he's not playing. And I'm blown away. I'm like, this is crazy. He finally gets in the game, he scores 9 straight points, and the coach sits him back there. whatever it is. I'm not in practice. I don't know. All I know is I know what I'm seeing, but I know he's not playing. He ends up, we talk. I asked him why he was not playing. Me and the coach, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, well, that's got nothing to do with me because I actually know where he's from. I've already seen him for a year or two. I know the cloth that it's cut from. I'm not worried about it because I'm cut from that same cloth. So therefore, if I get him, I know what I'm dealing with. He'll tell you, I know what I'm dealing with. Because I probably told that to him. I know what I'm dealing with you, Chris. I already knew. Okay? But at the end of the day, these are going to Southwestern Oklahoma. Northwestern. And he goes out, the first day he works out, he breaks his ankle. And a couple of weeks, I guess, into it was the beginning of the year, and he calls me. And he says, Coach, I think I want to come back home. So he goes through the entire year there, and we end up talking, which I shot. I get him in school. He's in school. He's ready to go. And one of the things when we start talking about someone that's coaching, I didn't have to do enough for Chris. I didn't have to do enough. I could tell him something. No matter how I told it to him, to your point about your sons, no matter how I told it to him, he was going to receive it, take it, go about the business. But then there are some other kids that we had, I couldn't do that to. I would have to come over to him and say, listen, you got to do that. Now, I probably didn't say that, but I would do that.
Yeah, we got to take it.
Yeah, I know you did. But at the end of the day, so when you're looking for a coach, you need to have somebody that has the ability to understand the athlete that they're working with on a regular basis. And I knew Chris. I don't think you guys understand. I already knew what I was working with. If I needed a bucket, this is no lie. I'm telling you the truth. I would go into the huddle and I would diagram the dumbest play. I don't think you guys understand. All it is just to get Chris the ball. I would diagram stuff over here, stuff over there, and then I would go, okay, Chris, you gonna come right over here, you gonna get this ball. And y'all just walk away. Now, that makes me look good as a coach, but at the end of the day, it's his talent. I knew he understood the situation, he understood the dynamic, he understood what was at stake. So part of the thing, part of the question, in terms of looking for a coach, you gotta have the right coach for the right athlete. And you have to look at that in the interview process. Do they have the personal disposition to be able to navigate from the cloth that Chris is cut from to maybe a cloth kind of person out here would be cut from? Very vastly different. Vastly different. Okay? Also, when we talk about the athletic pursuit, a lot of things have been talked about as far as commitment is concerned. And the home. And it is very important. And I'm like Pastor Matt. My child played over Hanley. Did I like him? No. I didn't think he was utilized right. And I coached college basketball. So instead of being like Pastor Matt and sit down in the front, I went all the way to the top of Hanley and I sat back there and I just watched. Because I knew he was a person. And I know what I was going to do, so I just sat up there and I didn't say anything, okay? And I would go home. But don't be that kind of parent that sits down in the front, because it doesn't do any good, Pastor Matt. but at the end of the day, commitment and training. And I did the same thing that you did. When my son said to me what he wanted to do, I had to have a really great conversation with him. Do you know what this means? I straight up asked him, do you know what this means? Do you know the commitment level? Do you know what you have to do? And so those 5 a.m.s, it's funny, those 5 a.m. workouts that we something to do, he and I had him doing his box jumps, and I got him training and doing this and doing that. It's funny though, how God works. Basketball was something he loved, but all those trainings ended up developing him for track. And he ended up being a state in the triple jump. He went to the state for triple jumps. I went crazy. But at the end of the day, what I'm saying is, I had to learn how to develop my child too, because I was a lot like Pastor. I would be wanting to talk to him about do this, do that, here and there, and I could see how he would look at me in the stands, and I wouldn't say anything, but he was trying to get my approval, if that makes any sense. And when I noticed it, I'm like, you just need to go play. Just go play. If you want it, let's, like I said, if you want to talk about it, we talk about it. If you don't, we don't. And he would call me and say, what do you think? You know, well, you did this good. You could have done that better. But I had to be a dad, and it's tough to do that sometimes when you have to take yourself out of it. Okay? Any other questions that we have before we wrap up?
Final question. I do want somebody, just one person, the speaker always tell the kids, what was the theory I had now, and I just had 100%. So I told him I want 1 more percent. If you give 100%, I want 101, which is a lot of kids playing school ball, basketball. I just speak from our family, so I told Tasha, you're going to play basketball. That's what you said you want to do, so that's what you're going to do. So you know how we come was like, okay, that's what you say you want, that's what we're going to do for the 1%. So if you have practice at 5, right, and your practice is at 7, we're going to come in this gym for 7 8 just to put up a couple of like 300, 400 shots, you know what I'm saying? Because you got to know what you said. So this is important. So it's doing that and it's understanding when your practice and the things are over, when you have that day off, and go out there and do something. You're not telling them to go out, touch a basketball, dribble, or any school, in basketball, any school, just give that extra 1% when nobody's looking. Like I said, after practice, we in this gym, nobody's looking, the cameras not on, we putting 500 shots up, so somebody, speaking at least like a minute, just speaking at 1%. Before you think that's not it.
Oh, no. No, it's most certainly, I think I mentioned it earlier, there is literally no way for a high school basketball player to be fortunate enough to play Division 1, 2, or 3 basketball if all they are doing is going to their team practices and playing their games. It's literally impossible. And I know that to be a fact because I have seen it over the last 25 years. My father used to tell me all the time, and I mentioned earlier he was in that, but one of the things that he would always tell me was that when you are sleeping, somebody else's work, right? And at the time, I'm like 11, 12, 14, it didn't really register. But as I got older, it did make a lot of sense because the way the game is now, especially if you're playing travel basketball, even high-level high school basketball, you're competing against not just the kids in your city, your county, your region. You're competing against kids all over the country, and sometimes all over the world. You got teams from other countries. And so when you sleep, you sleep in on a Saturday at 8 o'clock, it's a different time in some other states. Some kid is up and he is working and he's thinking about the next time he plays you or anybody else. And so you are 100% right. There's no way to get to that place without putting in all that extra work. I was just talking to my wife about this a week or so ago. We were talking about how few kids are actually able to go play college basketball at the 1, 2, or 3 division level. It's a minuscule percentage. I mean, like very, very small. It's like 1% of high school basketball players play Division 1. And it's still small when you extrapolate that out to Division 2 and 3. And when you think about that, that's crazy. There's hundreds of thousands of kids playing high school athletics all across the country. And 1% is who gets the opportunity to play and earn a Division 1 scholarship. We watch And the only way that you can make it that far is by doing all of the extra work. It's not just putting up extra shots, you know what I'm saying? It's especially nowadays, you gotta work with the body, kids gotta be paying attention to the rest, they gotta be paying attention to the nutrition, you gotta be doing steel work, kids gotta be watching film. Like, it takes a lot. It's a lot, and many of the kids recognize that and are doing it. And what's funny is that sometimes we have conversations about the way youth sports is pursued in other countries, like in Europe, for example. But they got 14-year-old kids playing professionally against grown men. I'm talking about grown men who's been playing the field in the Olympics. Not because they don't want to go to school, but because they recognize just how much extra work it takes to get to the level that these people want to play at. So yes, I would never ever say that it's not necessary. You absolutely have to do it. There's no way.
For me, I think that extra work, having seen Josh Goldberg was kind of my defining piece. Trying to see if the other children really love the sport or not. If they just work in practice, they'll do everything in practice. But if they did nothing else outside of practice or had a desire to, it was an indication to me that, they just really like making their grades and being that kind of thing, but they didn't really grasp it. One of the things I did with our youngsters, with Julia, Josh was always in the gym, she was always in the gym, she would do that, but when it came time for her, she liked playing up as opposed to that training, and before we could see that she loved the game, she got involved in the training. She wouldn't quit, but she wouldn't volunteer to be in there again. And so that was an indication that, next thing you know, she tried volleyball. Well, she wanted to cheer me. So I think that's important, to see that, you're going to hear him dribbling, you're going to hear him with the football. That extra piece and the extra connection that they have with it, I think is an indication, and it's quite important. I remember one of the things that happened with us is with reference to basketball. They kept talking about, the college athletes and these basketball bodies and whatever. The kids couldn't really understand what that meant until they really came up against, full-grown athletes, that had these basketball bodies. I mean, Josh now walking around looking like a football player has developed that, but that's what they were talking about. And that only comes with that extra work and that extra things and training, nutrition, and all of those kind of different things. And I think one of the things is, are you really ready for the sacrifice? That grocery bill, that travel bill got to go up. But I think that extra work is essential. But also I think it's important about what information you get. There's so much stuff out here, and so much kind of thing. You need guidance with it. You need some understanding with it. To try to think because what you put in your bodies and how you react and all that kind of stuff is really important. But I think it's essential, the actual work, but it also is an indication of that commitment and love for it if they want to go back. Like my man said, we can go to Rexon Park and play volleyball and hang out kind of thing, as opposed to this investment, because it's an investment.
Absolutely. And I just want to share one thing. What you put into your work and your workout is what you're going to get out in your performance. So make sure you make a deposit because you can't get out of your anything. Let me give a bank analogy. When you go to the bank and you put some money in the bank, you have a right to go back and put a demand on that money that you put in the bank. resources to go back and pull on. But if you don't put anything in it, and you go to try to take something out of it, you just ain't gonna happen. So make sure you make a deposit for yourself and not for your parents, and not to be, well, I'm pleasing mom and dad, but just because you're happy in what you're doing, you're gonna make the best out of being that athlete. And again, if I put only 50% in, I'm happy. So I gotta make sure I go to that level of, hey, I'm committed to my sport, my event, what I'm doing. And when you commit to that, you're gonna get the results from it because you love it, not because somebody's forcing you to do it. Enjoy the sport and don't let it become a burden to you. Let it be a platform for you to have a voice to say, this is what we can do if we stay committed. But put the work in. Please put the work in. If you want the results, put the work in. Not for mama, not for dad, but for yourself, because you know that's what you're in here doing.
All right, thank you very much. Chris, make the closing remarks. Looking back at the biggest sacrifice, those biggest sacrifice. I think we answered the three actually. When we're looking back, what was the biggest sacrifice you had to make, and was it worth it? What was the biggest sacrifice you guys had to make, and was it worth it?
I think the biggest sacrifice our family had to make was making the decision to move out of state for our son. That was the biggest thing. We had, I'm extremely proud of him because he was willing to leave his friends that he grew up with and all of the different things, and without knowing what was next, what was going on, and those kind of things. But when we were able to do that, it was a sacrifice for the entire family. But we, by the grace of God, was guided in the right direction in places and stuff. And as I said, so when we look back at this point, when St. Maria Goretti recruited looked forward, they said one particular thing. They said we had 100% acceptance rate in college. We knew what the Baltimore Catholic League was, but when they said 100% acceptance rate in college, that he was going to get an offer. He had academic offers as well as basketball offers. That was the balance that we looked for, and so it changed. It changed everything, and we stayed connected. It was a blessing, the fact that because free college education was the goal, and we were able to attain that through all of this hard work, all the process, and all the diligence and help. And so we wound up going to Stonehill College up in Boston, Massachusetts, which was at that time was one of the part of the largest Division II leagues in the country, NET. And by the grace of God, before he left, they went up to Division I and the NEC. He got a chance to play against UConn, who eventually won the national championship. He got to play on television. He got to travel the country and all of those type of things. But he got a Type 1 education in business, finance, and because of that, this coach got an opportunity to do an internship in finance down in Richmond that turned into a full-time job as a equity finance analyst, and he's doing that today, as well as playing pro-am basketball at the Ben Wallace Center in the league. living his best life. And we thank God for it. And so that was a piece. And the word, absolutely.
Definitely think so. I just got to put this on. I want to put this out there right quick. The theme was very powerful today, what you chose, and I didn't know about the questions when I came in. And I guess I should read my emails a little bit more carefully. So I wrote some things. And as I can tell you, as a father, and I'm a national champion, and I'm up that hopeful that behind every podium finish, there's a price paid in prayer, patience, and perseverance. And I can give you some of the records to tell, but that's not the issue right now. But as a pastor, I've always views this journey through the lens of faith. God doesn't just give us dreams, He prepares us for the process. And that preparation often involves sacrifice of time, of comfort, and of personal agendas. But I've learned when you're raising a gifted child, it's not just about helping them succeed, it's about stewarding the gift with love, discipline, and spiritual grounding. Very, very important. So I would say to every coach, every parent, and every mentor in this room, your support can be the bridge between talent and destiny. Don't just cheer the victories, be present in the valleys and in the peaks. Speak life into the setbacks and help them remember who they are beyond the sport.
Really quickly, I can't think of any one particular thing that I would describe as the biggest sacrifice. I can say that the biggest sacrifices are time. That's pretty straightforward. It won't get any more straightforward. That time is going to require a lot of your time, and most of it is not going to be free. But the question about whether or not it's worth it is sounding yes, right? And I don't say that just because my oldest has been able to do the things that he wanted to do in basketball and play at ACC and have great success there. That's not why I say it's worth it. My law partner used to joke with me at times that all the money that I've spent over the years since he was 3 all the way to college, I didn't just put that away and just wait for college by itself. And yeah, that's probably true, right? Because you do spend a lot of money, right? It's part of it. But that would not have been the same, right? He just mentioned the process. The process, I am a firm believer that every child should play some kind of team sport, whether it's soccer, baseball, whatever, some kind of team sport. I really believe that there's so many life lessons to be learned when you participate in team sport especially. There are lessons to learn in individual sports as well. But because I believe that it was always going to be there, right? The sacrifices that we made were because he told us that he had a dream and he had a goal. So whether that was the goal or not, it was still going to be worth it because you learn, you mature, you develop in ways, and you participate in team sports that I think that a lot of kids that don't have the opportunity to experience it and miss out on that. So was it worth it? The answer to that